Alright, this is my FBA that I did for my CPSC 410 class. I was able to observe a student that I will call Jack, and he had a disability classification under autism, and he just spoke Spanish at home, but as he came to school, he started learning English, and he's done pretty well. It hasn't really been a barrier. He is 4 years old, and he is currently in a preschool specifically for children with autism, in a self-contained classroom, and his teacher we'll call Mrs. Hopkins. So the behavior that I chose to observe is out-of-seat behavior, and I defined that as any time the student gets up from their chair or isn't sitting with their pockets on the flat part of the chair, so anytime they're not sitting appropriately in their chair. So first of all, I went and did an interview with the FAST form with Mrs. Hopkins, and I was able to narrow down with her when the out-of-seat behavior occurs for Jack. And as we talked, we found that the behavior usually occurs during lunch, calendar, or just when asked to sit in group settings, usually like in the front of the classroom with the teacher and all the students gathered around. But it didn't really occur when asked to participate or interact with the teacher during those group sessions, or in one-on-one work sessions that they did during the day. They usually did about 4 of those. And also it didn't occur during play. So in addition, just some things that the teacher stated that I thought were applicable is that Jack really does love working one-on-one with the teachers and doing the required tasks that he's asked to do. And he's also very absorbed in playtime. He doesn't really have any issues there. And she also has not observed any self-stimulation behaviors. And she just seconded that his language doesn't appear to be a barrier in academic tasks that he's asked to do. And after completing the questions on the FAST form, I found that social attention or preferred items was the most likely cause of this problem behavior that we were observing. So the hypothesis that we were able to form was that Jack appears to engage in out-of-seat behavior to obtain social attention from the teacher. So I went to observe to make sure that that hypothesis could be substantiated, and found through just a couple examples that I included on here that the antecedent most of the time to Jack's problem behavior had to do with the teacher asking a different student to come up to the front of the class and engage in a calendar activity, or to help the teacher sing, or help the teacher point to the right day, or things like that. And that Jack would, in response to that, often jump out of his seat. He might kick over his chair. He frequently just ran right up to the whiteboard. That was, I think, the most common thing, is that he got up and ran to the whiteboard, and he would, try to grab the objects and participate himself. And the consequences that I observed, the first time, the teacher just said Jack's name and asked him to go sit verbally. The second time, she actually stood up from her chair and guided him back physically and gently to help him sit back in his chair. And the third time, I think she was a little exasperated, and she just let Jack stay out of his chair and help with the task, along with the other student. And another observation that I was able to do was the momentary time sampling, and I observed that his peers were of the same sex and age, were out of their seat about 12% of the time, and that's combined with all of them sitting around the teacher. But Jack was out of his seat 20% of the time. And while that doesn't seem like a huge difference, it also seemed that Jack's out-of-seat behavior was consistently followed by attention from the teacher. And all of those things just kind of, to me, supported my hypothesis that Jack really does engage in out-of-seat behavior to obtain social attention from the teacher. And as I was able to justify that statement, I just say that, in the interview, the teacher, like I said, found that Jack really does work well in one-on-one group interactions, and when he has access to the teacher and to, reinforcers from the teacher. In the observation I did, the ABC anecdotal observation, I found that Jack participated really well, actually, when he was asked to engage in a task or to help during group, but that he struggled more when others were asked to help, or when he had to just sit there for long periods of time without the teacher acknowledging him and looking right at him and having him participate with the whiteboard. And that usually resulted in him getting up and going straight for the teacher. He never got out of his seat and ran to a different part of the classroom. It was always right there where everyone was and always towards the teacher. And just in the other data that I found, his behavior really was almost always followed by teacher attention. And so from this data, we can conclude that his problem behavior really doesn't have any connection to self-stimulation, at least that we observed. And it didn't have anything to do with obtaining an object or tangible. He was never given anything in response to his behavior. And he wasn't escaping a task. He was actually usually trying to participate in a task. So the complete opposite. But it does correlate with obtaining attention from the teacher. And that's why I believe that my FBA statement is correct. Thank you.